Hey everyone, I'm Melissa from Knitting the Stash, and this is episode 91 in the series. Welcome to my yarn room, or welcome back, either way. This is my yarn/classroom, as so many of you know who are coming back. It's good to see you. And if you're new here, this is a podcast about knitting design and modification and DIY and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So if you're into those things, you have found the right place. Today I have a jam-packed show, which is kind of fun. I have Spencer coming on for a segment we're going to call Making Multiples. So each of us will get to hold up a lot of knitwear, which will be kind of fun. And it was inspired a little bit by Taylor Owen's Top 10 Sweater Patterns episode that she did. So that should be a fun segment. I have two finished objects for you. I made a dog sweater for Millie because she couldn't be left, out. Her sister just got a dog sweater in the last episode, so she has a dog sweater. And I made my dad a sweater. So it's going to be shipped off this week for Christmas. And I'll tell you about that knit as well. Plus, a little update on the test knitting tech editing of this new design, which I finally have a name for. Wait for that one. And of course, I have a lovely giveaway from Ravid Ekshtain, who is Super Green Witch on Ravelry. A new pattern of hers has come out, and she's giving away a copy to one of you guys. So tons of stuff on this episode, and I'm really looking forward to jumping in. But I should do all the introductory stuff, right? Because I always forget. So, okay, where can you find me? You can find me everywhere as Knitting the Stash. I know sometimes you guys look around for me on Ravelry and other places. So I'm Knitting the Stash on Ravelry and Instagram, obviously on YouTube, and on the blog, which is knittingthestash.wordpress.com, and that's where I put all the show notes for this, all these episodes. And this episode in particular, you might want to check out the show notes because I will put links to all of the patterns that we talk about, and there are so many patterns we're going to talk about today. I also usually tell you that for those of you who are new, I'm in Urbana, Illinois. I'm a professor there. That's why the yarn/classroom. I've been Zooming with my students this semester. And I also usually tell you what I'm wearing. And this is a fun little piece. I pulled it out because I was digging through all the knits to create this massive pile for you today. And I got a little bit chilly, so I just pulled this on, and it's amazingly warm. I had forgotten how wonderful a little piece this is. And it's actually from Nomadic Knits. It was the cover piece from Nomadic Knits. This is the issue 6, Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, and it is the Will of the Wisp pattern by Melissa Kemmerer. I'm very bad here with the name. Melissa Kemmerer. It's a beautiful Will of the Wisp pattern. Quick knit. I did this in a mohair silent movie by Tanis Fiber Arts, which is a indie dyer out of Canada. So love this one, and I can't believe how warm it is. It goes down just far enough. It's like a little shrug, and it's kind of like super cute and super warm. Anyway, okay, onward. We're going to do a segment with Spencer first, then FOs, then test and tech knitting updates, and then the giveaway. So prepare yourselves. So as promised, I have Spencer on the podcast.
Promised?
Yeah, I promised them you'd come back sometime.
First segment of the podcast?
First segment of the podcast.
Nice, okay.
So I asked him, I started a conversation with him the other day about...
we got into it.
Knitting multiple things, and I asked him if he had ever done, made multiple...
Never done the same thing twice. Ever.
But why?
When we started talking about that,
yeah.
Turns out Melissa is a habitual repeater.
Oh, that's a good word for it. I like that phrase. I like that.
Like, she will take a pattern, and instead of just ripping it up after she's done with it, do it again. I
figured I was starting to think about it, and I was thinking, probably historically people would either hand down pattern traditions and then knit them over and over again. We have the dogs joining us. Or, they would maintain a pattern and they'd keep their, especially for sewing, they would keep their, what do you call those things with the tissue paper, the templates?
Kleenex?
Oh, gosh. You know what I mean?
It's just a pattern.
The actual pattern that, you'd keep them in multiple sizes and you'd fold them really carefully and so that you could make them and use them again, because patterns can be expensive, especially.
And once you get it right, you want to keep doing it.
Yeah, once you get it kind of dialed in. We talked about that.
Unless the repetition kills your soul It makes you so freaking depressed you can't even handle it.
But this is like, Spencer really dislikes, I mean, he likes knitting, but he also just like, he doesn't like eating soup, he doesn't like doing things like, like that.
No, wait. Those are two different topics. One is the fact that knitting is like little teeny bits
Yeah, but that's like a soup spoon.
put together into a big thing, which is like, that's hardcore.
Yeah.
But we're talking about doing the same thing over and over, like Groundhog Day on the needles.
But that's okay for some of us. And for some of us, doing it over and over again, it's like it's a reiteration, but with a difference.
Yeah.
Like, it's not always the same
In
thing.
fact, you've never knitted the same thing twice. I think all your variations have a little bit of change.
There's always something like a change in yarn, or a change in size, or a change in, you know, certain design elements, or something like that.
Okay, so this begs the question, do they get better each time? Or is it like a series of decay? Like the first time is the best, and then, you know,
after that it's just
you're just repeating yourself.
Well, we've got a lot of examples, so we'll let you guys be the judge, but I think they get better. And I think little elements change, and this actually all started for me with my very first sweater. Do you remember that sweater?
The striped one?
The striped one that didn't...
We never did that again.
But I did. I took it, the basic idea of it. I used the pattern as a kind of recipe.
Okay, all right.
And I completely modded the neckline, and I modded like I used the same yarn but a solid color, and I changed the hem, and I changed, you know, like all the different things about it that
All right, now this kind of reminds me of the house that we built together.
Which some of you may not have heard about, but we did build
all right, so Melissa and I, we got this wild hair, and this one summer we built a house.
Living in tents. And anyway.
So as we built that house, we came to the clear realization, and this was using a kit, like a template, like a pattern kind of thing. We weren't just improvising.
But it was just a stack of wood. It wasn't a kit.
Right.
It was like a stack of wood with a pattern.
But we had some plans on a piece of paper.
That were hand-drawn. And anyway.
So as we were building it, we kept saying to ourselves and to each other and kind of screaming at the top of our lungs, damn, if we would have just like built this once for practice and then done it the second or third time for ourselves.
Yep, we would.
Because it's a great house, but it's not like as good as it could be.
Yeah.
You know?
Once you start living in it and kind of like wearing a sweater or living in a house or, you know, that kind of thing, using something, you're like, oh, it could be so much better if only. No.
So there's that proverb, I'm going to get this wrong, but it's pretty much like the first time you make something, make it for a stranger.
Oh.
The second time for a friend, and then the third time for yourself, your family. Ouch. You know, because you know, like
community man.
Well, I know it's a weird
what about
proverb.
The collectivism?
I think you would rather do it the other way around. Like the first time for yourself, because you can deal with the problems.
Yeah.
The second time for a friend, and the third time for a stranger, because a stranger you want it to really be slamming.
Yeah, you want it to be good. These really, you know, when you do those sample knits and those test knits, you're always a little bit like, ooh, is it good enough? You know, is it like, because I'm going to send it off to someone.
And in fact, I think I remember you re-knitting a test knit.
I have re-knit several sweaters. What we're talking about today is not even the same re-knitting.
Thing. No, we're not doing that.
I've re-knit, I think, 2 or 3 sweaters from scratch. Just ripped them out, started over because they were just slightly the wrong size or slightly the wrong... I tried.
So we're going to look at some examples?
Okay, yes.
She's got a lot of freaking examples of this.
I realized when I started going through in my head, I was like, oh my god. So the first one is that inspired all this is the dog sweater for Tink and Millie.
Yeah.
So this was Tink's
sweater.
Now
this is weird because these don't look at all alike.
Okay,
Do I put this on now?
No. Yeah, we're going to put them on.
This is the first one.
You got to put it on.
This is the
no,
Tink.
Just kidding.
How do you wear this? This is the first one. This is the Tink sweater.
And this is Millie's sweater.
And this was straight up copy of the pattern.
With some modifications.
She changed the band
I told you about it in the last episode. But that's the basic recipe I made. Millie's much bigger than Tink, so it takes up a little more.
How is that the same sweater?
So, but it's the same basic recipe. You do like a ribbing, you increase, you create your, you know, pattern portion, you do your front portion. I'll talk about this sweater in a little while.
4 leg holes since it's a dog.
Leg holes, and then, you know, you're wrapping it up at the bottom. It's the same
So it's just different colors,
recipe.
different basic stuff.
Different size, different pattern, different neck.
Okay,
you know.
At what point is it no longer the pattern?
Oh God,
you know?
I don't know.
I mean, at what point isn't it the pattern? Like, I don't know if that Millie thing, I don't know if that's really the pattern anymore.
It's the same recipe.
But that's kind of like, you know, like I made bread, but it was like...
sourdough versus rye or something.
Yeah, something like that. I still use the oven, so it's the same.
I don't know.
Right,
that's a good question. You guys can help us out with that, maybe in the comments. Okay. Earlier...
So you've got more examples.
Okay. I made the Manning Park hat. And
earlier today.
Yeah, earlier today. I just whipped this
This was
up.
like a couple years back.
This is a long time ago. This is the Manning Park hat, and this is by Black Crow Knits, and it's a really cute.
It's cool.
It's got the picot edge and the lined inside, and
she wears it all the time.
Two-tone.
And I made the mistake of saying, "Oh, I love that hat." Then she knitted me. I shouldn't.
Now we have his and hers Manning Park. Well, see, his is so big. Look at this.
She got a little pea head, just like
you got
the
a really,
littlest,
really big head.
littlest bit of a head, hardly
Okay, here,
even.
you hold yours.
All right.
So his has a liner, same, and I use the Tanis fiber.
It's
arch
got the
for liner.
raspberry. It's the best.
Yeah, you got the raspberry liner, and his has a little more contrast, and his has been worn. Look at this.
You got a hole in it.
There's like a
I was
hole in
I was trying
it.
to show you that.
Yeah.
Should I just duct tape that, or how do you fix stuff?
So these two were
Hot
basically
glue, I'm thinking.
totally different yarns, except for the inner. But the pattern was
Pretty much
basically the same, and then it's
they're
different,
recognizably the same.
different size.
Unlike the dog sweaters, which you would never know they were
Okay.
related.
You want to keep going? Should we keep going?
Let's look at another one.
Okay.
We don't
So
have all day.
this is the Linus shawl, and I knit
Oh, so
5
I don't
of these.
even know.
I have 3 of them. So this is from my hand spun. This is the Linus shawl. It's a beautiful triangular shawl. You start at one end and you knit all the way to the other end. So my hand spun.
This was like a while back you were getting
This is
into
a long time ago. And this is cool because you can see all the different ways. This was a combination spin for some...
You spun this
I
stuff?
spun this stuff and then knit it.
It's kind of cool when you spin it.
And Spencer
then
said he
you knit
liked it.
It'd be cooler if you made the pattern.
I know.
Raised the sheep.
So Spencer said he liked it, so I made him a Linus.
Oh, I swiped that one.
And this one is out of the Into the World, which is an indie dyer.
So that's
And
basically this, just
it's
with
the
the
same
different
pattern,
yarn,
but with different yarns. You can see all the different ways that yarn will play
different
around.
iterations or whatever.
Yep. And the Linus pattern, by the way, I always get this, I want to make sure I get it right. It's Annette Cordes. I love her pattern. And then I decided I wanted to knit an even yet different Linus. This is Linus too.
Now, did the repetition kill you?
This is Linus, but it's more like a
it's
tie.
different. A little thinner.
So I often wear this one as just like a little neck kind of a
Did you run out of
cravat
yarn
thing.
or something?
No, I just wanted to make it long and narrow so that I could wear it like this under a coat.
At this point, was the repetition killing you?
No.
No.
And then I knit 2 more for my
Oh,
grandmother and my
no.
aunt, and I mailed them off before I ever got pictures of them.
And then
That
you
was
hit the
mainly what it
wall.
was.
You couldn't do another one.
Okay, so then I switched to a different shawl. This is the Vary the Gate by Cassiopeia, and I did this one first.
She got all shawled out.
This is in some
Oh,
beautiful...
this one's pretty. I like this one. The next one, I don't know about the next one.
Well, the next one's pretty too. They're just different. So the Vary the Gate, the cool thing about Vary the Gate as a pattern is that it's intended for this variegated yarn. And it uses these slip
clever.
stitches and these different patterns to kind of break up the color pooling, right?
I was going to talk about the slip stitches, but I wanted to leave that to you.
I totally
I'm
wanted
just gonna
to.
put this up
And
here.
then I decided to try one out of Old Crow Art Yarns just to see what would happen. And I think this one produces an even more interesting effect because the color pooling doesn't happen at all, even though it's an indie dyed skein where it should have some color pooling. So it breaks up all the colors.
Same stitches and stuff.
Same stitches. This is actually really good. Should we
So you're being a freaking
Should we
mannequin.
just-
Just kidding.
you want to put the dogs?
All right, so...
There's more.
Oh my gosh.
Reach over
just I just got to... Okay. Oh, these are cool. Okay. All right, this is Melissa's everyday sweater. If you've seen her around, she wears this thing all the time.
Yes.
It is the Pinko Linko in a pink colorway. What's it called?
This is Alias.
This is the Alias sweater.
By your favorite, Isabel Kramer.
Oh, Isabel Kramer?
Yeah.
She is the hipster knitter, man, on the Ravelry. Okay, so she knitted this one.
No, I knit the other one first.
I got the story wrong.
I wanted the pink one.
This was the yarn you scored at Starbucks.
It was. This is local
She had
Illinois
this
Shetland.
backwoods deal.
It was
where she,
awesome.
she met this gal.
She was raising some Shetlands, or her brother was,
She
and
comes
she had
back
extra
with
yarn.
bags of yarn, dyed it on the back porch, knitted it, and then thought, damn, that was good, and then knitted the next one.
Yeah. And these are cool because I added this liner to both of them with this superwash yarn to make it really warm and cozy around the neck. They've both had different button band iterations, as you know, because the dogs ate this one.
These are the edible sweaters, pretty much.
But this one's like super warm and heavy, like so heavy. It's like, oh.
But you wear this one more.
But this one is a little bit lighter and more like transitional, seasonal, and it too has a liner in the collar and just different buttons. So like, here, you hold this one up.
Yes, ma'am.
So even the same sweater, knit up in very different yarns, totally different gauge for both of these than from the pattern, so I had to do some sweater math, my favorite thing.
All right, now I'm just going to read between the lines here. You seem to be a proponent of taking a pattern and busting it out in different iterations.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
You learn a lot about it, and then I would make 15 more of these. I love them. In fact, that's what I should do next. Okay, but you have another sweater over there.
Oh yeah, this is the Chimney.
Chimney sweater.
All right, this is the most recent version. Do you have all
Okay.
three? No.
No, I
One
don't.
is missing in action. It turns out when you knit a sweater for a teenager,
It just disappeared.
you see it that day, like that week. It's great. And then it just kind of poof.
No one knows. So this is hard to see, and I'll talk about this one in another segment. This is the all black chimney sweater that's going to be for my dad. You really
Last
can't.
version.
You really can't see it very well.
He wanted something simple.
Something simple. It's got a little black stripe on it and some gray, and that's about it.
And then this is the one that she knitted for me. This was number 2.
Yep.
I wanted a little bit more flair, a little color
Yeah,
going
you got a
on.
little red. This is the Shetland, the same Shetland that I used for this sweater.
Starbucks.
The Starbucks Shetland, but
Scored
dyed I dyed that in a darker kind of red color.
And then the other one, you'll probably put a picture up.
Yeah.
Was was like blue and
Really enjoy.
Man of Wool. The other one was
There's going to
like,
be a calendar coming out soon. Go,
Men of
Spencer,
Wool. Sign up,
covered in
fellas. Send me your email and a few pictures. The first one was blue and gray.
wool. Yeah, it was kind of greenish.
He loved
gray.
it. It just poof,
Yeah,
vanished.
he wore it to soccer, and then we've never.
We're
really
not sure what
seen it
happened to that.
before.
Some other kid
Yeah.
maybe has it.
He's done that before. He's
It's
given just
around
sweatshirts
the
away,
community.
like that say his last name on. Like he'll have the Sosnoff sweatshirt, and then we'll just go somewhere else, see somebody else wearing it. Or like, how's it?
All right, so here's my question.
Staying warm.
It's warm shoulders.
Yeah.
I see why people do this. They don't.
It looks a little bit like one of those kingly stoles
royalty.
that you.
Behold.
Plus, there's one more.
Okay, we got one more.
The It's a Wrap cowl. I knit 2 of these this year.
You just dug these out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one's in Sweet Georgia, and it's a shorter version,
Different
and one
length.
is in the beautiful yarn that Zach dyed, and it's a longer one. So I'll just.
So when you change it, you will change the yarn a little bit, the pattern a
size,
little
the
bit, the
pattern.
size a little bit,
This is getting kind of. Now you got like what do you call those epaulets? Like shoulder.
something. Shoulder pads.
There you go.
It's like the 80s.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So you were gonna say.
Okay, so here's my question. Okay, so a pattern. I'm sliding. I have those sloped shoulders. Doesn't quite. So a pattern is a template. Is it a formula? Is it a
I like to think of it as recipe. I've heard that before.
Recipe.
Because you can kind
You
of
kind of look at it. You get a feel for it. If you don't have this spice, you use something else.
You can kind of riff
Yeah.
on it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't like onions, you use leeks, and if you don't have leeks, you can use.
But
shallots.
sometimes you do it exactly the way it's supposed to be done.
only if I'm knitting in translation, and I have no idea what the heck the sweater.
But come on,
construction is.
with the Japanese yarn that you did recently,
that wasn't.
you
no,
tweaked it, you changed it up.
Totally changed it.
but
yeah.
you did want the right yarn.
Yes,
You don't wanna
sometimes you want
just-
the right. Sometimes you want the yarn that's called for in the pattern. You gotta have the right yarn,
gotta
and
have
it's
the right
maybe it's not the exact yarn that the pattern calls for, but it's like the right yarn for you.
Yeah,
You're like, I want
yeah.
it. But both of the dog sweaters were knit up in the yarn that was called for in the pattern. I can't find them now. I don't even know where they are.
They're in my pile.
They're in the pile.
They're on the bottom of my shoulder.
But the other thing is, I was thinking, your mom. You mentioned that your mom.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of, you're like, is it a
Okay,
heuristic, a
okay.
recipe?
She's a little wacky, and
We love
she
you. Hi, Marie.
she has a I think it's a superstition about newborn children. Probably comes from the old country or whatever. So I got like a grandkid,
and number 2 on the
there's
way.
like another grandkid coming. So she knits the same baby blanket for every baby. Like, and I'm not talking every baby in the family, like pretty much every baby. Like babies on the street. Like she will knit this thing, and she doesn't change it at all. And she could change it, right? She could throw. She's not like an expert, but she could do some different stuff.
Yeah.
But she does the same thing, and I think it's because every baby needs this blanket. It's just sort of like a.
So you asked her. You were like, what if?
You know, what if my boy has like 12 kids, which
Well,
is a
your
possibility.
Your boy's not gonna have the kids. Aaron,
Oh, yeah.
Aaron's gonna have the kids. But
Oh.
Hi, Aaron. Happy
Whatever.
needs.
I'm not sure how that works, but anyway, you know, what if he's got a bunch of kids, and she's going for it?
I think she'll knit one for every single. How's this gonna? I feel like we've been buried under an avalanche of.
It's a lot. Oh, here's the dog sweater.
They're the dog sweaters. We
It's a
found
lot
them.
of stuff. It's kind of cool when you go through your archive and start pulling out your iterations.
Yeah, and I really didn't. I hadn't really thought about it until I started knitting like the 3rd chimney sweater and the 2nd dog sweater, and I was wearing my other alias sweater. I was like, Something's
Like,
going
I've
on
really done
here.
this. You like it.
I do like it.
You get a lot of mileage out of those patterns.
Yeah. Yeah, you pay like for, you know, you pay the designers, you pay them for their labor, and then you just
How much is a pattern? Like $5?
It depends. Accessories are like 5, sweaters
Oh,
are
yeah.
like 10, you know.
Yeah.
But you can make multiples.
Yeah.
And you can do, you know, once you've done it once, then you kind of know the moves and you know the basics, and you can just be like, I'm gonna rip.
It's a little
on
more
it.
chill. That's why you like the chimney sweater. Like it's a
The chimney sweater's chill.
it's a sweater you can just do
like,
and, you know,
I knit 'em on
she
the
can drive at the
bus
same
and-
time or whatever.
I wish.
Jeez.
I can finally read at the same time, but I can't drive
Yeah.
at the same
She's
time.
been doing Zoom meetings and knitting without even looking down.
It's the best.
Just meeting.
Yeah.
With the knitting
You
going
just do
on.
it below the camera, man. It's awesome. Yeah.
What happens below the camera?
That's
That's what you
with
gotta
the
ask.
knitting. No one knows. Yeah. So, anyway, thanks for coming on the cast.
Yeah,
to
thanks for having me.
talk about multiples.
I'm a real expert on repetition.
Yeah.
Never having repeated myself.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try it.
You gonna do it?
I'm actually doing a project right now that I'm thinking
You're gonna
if
make
I
it
did
up.
it again, it might be better the second time. And not only better, but kind of a cool experience.
It's
so.
rubbing off on him, guys. I appreciate that.
All right, thanks for having me.
I'm gonna try to give you a,
Yeah.
a hug. Okay,
I'll take
that's
this
that's good. Okay.
You want me to take some stuff with me?
No, well, no, you're good. Okay. So it's always lovely to have Spencer on the cast. I hope you guys enjoyed that segment. I wanted to take a minute here and talk to you about the 2 of those iterations. So I have my dad's chimney sweater and I have Millie's Alasuq sweater. And I thought I'd give you just the quick redux on these since I've talked about my other versions on other episodes, which I'll post over in the show notes. So the chimney sweater is by Strikalisa, and it is one of the best men's sweater patterns I've ever found because it's simple, it's a raglan construction, it really is sized very well, and I think it looks pretty good on all the men in my life. So, and I think it's also kind of unisex. Like I really do want to knit a 4th just for me. I've been waiting to knit a 4th because I love that this has a great kind of floppy neck, and if you've seen my other versions of it, you'll recognize that. My dad also asked for it to be all black, which, as anyone who's a knitter knows, that is a true knit of love because black yarn is not always the easiest to see. Luckily, this one is super simple stockinette, and so that makes it a little bit easier. One thing that was a kind of happy accident about this sweater is that I ended up using yarn that was supposed to be from the same dye lot. This is the Naturally Nazareth. I've knit a couple of the other sweaters in Naturally Nazareth. I really love that yarn, totally economical. Just had another conversation today with someone about it. Janice, I think it was Janice who emailed me. And it was all the same dye lot, but you can see, maybe just a little, that there is a slight variation there. You see that band of black in the middle? And it also extends over to the arm. So happy accident. It looks like the all black sweater got a little bit of flair to it, which made me kind of happy. The other thing about this one is that it is different from the other 2 in that the upper part of the sweater, I knit the whole sweater in this Naturally Nazareth yarn, whereas the other 2, as you saw in the other segment, the upper part was knit in the Illinois Shetland, which had a slightly different gauge and I had to play around with it a little bit. This one, luckily, I had my huge gauge swatch, which was Spencer's sweater, to measure gauge, and I just went with that for the entire upper and made a couple adjustments. One thing I would do is, if I were to do this again, which I might, as you know, this upper part of the sweater here, in the pattern it calls for size 4 needles, and then you go up to size 8. I had to go up to size 8 for this particular yarn, for this gauge. I would have used 6s here and then 8s because the transition from 4 to 8 is a bit much. The reason that you want this tight up here, and 6s would work just fine, is because you're going to insert your, whatever you call this, I can't think what it's like, your cord through that part of the sweater. So you want it to be a kind of tighter gauge, which makes sense. But I think size 6 needles would do that just fine. I did a transition where I went from 4 to 6 to 8 to try to get it to all work. Men's sweaters, so those of you who know, who have knit for men, as I was knitting this, I was like, my God, that is a long sweater. Is it really going to be that big? And then Spencer put it on, and Spencer's like maybe a little bit, I think he has a 2-inch chest difference between him and my dad. And this sits a little bit closer on him with a little less ease. but it fits just fine, as you'll see when I put some pictures in here. So it is a very long sweater because it's a men's sweater, and my dad requested that it be long and have really long sleeves. So I made the sleeves extra long and then tapered toward the end. So basically when you put them on, they give you a little bit of grip so you can pull them up, but they sit kind of nicely on your forearms. So yeah, that's yet another chimney sweater. I quite like it. It's a wonderful pattern, and if you're interested, it's a Strickalisa pattern. I think it's not very expensive, maybe 6 to 8. I think is it a Danish pattern? I'm trying to remember. It's in English, but I think she's Danish. 6 to 8 euros or dollars or something like that. It's very economical, and if you make 3 or 4 of them, I mean, come on, that's like $2 a sweater. So yeah, totally recommend it. So the other sweater iteration for you guys today, my other finished object, is a sweater for Millie. This is Millie the dog, and I'll put a few pictures up here for wearing this. And as Spencer noted, like, it does look quite different from Tink's sweater, though it is the same recipe, and I modified it in many of the same ways that I modified Tink's sweater. I didn't do a rolled neckline, I just did a simple rib. That seems to be just fine. The roll is nice because it does keep it a little bit tighter and higher up on their neck to kind of support the weight of the shoulders and the rest of the coat. But I think this works out okay for Millie. She has a bigger, wider chest than Tink, so I needed to make a couple sizes up for her, so that's why it's much wider and kind of larger in circumference. And because of that, and because she's the same length as Tink, needed to do a little bit of modifying with the decreases to get this thing to end before her tail on her back, but you'll see in the photos that it worked out fine. And I again added the harness leash hole to the back, which for us is really pretty necessary because when we walk these guys, they always have a harness on and we need somewhere for the harness to come out. But the other thing I modified is the pattern, and as you can see, it's this kind of fun, it's almost like a 1970s throwback kind of sweater. I pulled this pattern out of Alternate Stitch Dictionary, and this is Andrea Rangel, and I just love some of her patterns in here. It's a really fun stitch dictionary. It's very unusual, and it does have some traditional patterns in it, but it also has just some fun and playful things. So this is Grooves, which is here, and it's a really fun little pattern. But I wanted to do something special for her chest section, and because Millie's a little bit more playful than Tink in a way. She takes life a little less seriously, let's just say. So this is the Masked Bandit, which I think you can see over here. Yes. It's a raccoon and a trash can. We decided, Spencer and I, that it would be appropriate for Millie to have a little raccoon on the chest portion of her sweater. So this is her little raccoon, and I needed to increase the number of stitches to be able to fit the whole pattern repeat on there. But that's Millie. It goes right on her chest. It's really cute. I love it. And I did the armhole ribbing in the same green as the rest of the sweater, so that for one of the reasons was so that this would kind of blend in very nicely and have a little frame around it. But the other is that I just think, given the kind of busyness of the white and the green, it looks nice to just go straight to a plain green and have all of the ribbing in that same green color. Same thing as last time with the floats. You're working back and forth in color work, so right side and wrong side. It's a little bit of a challenge if you're not used to it. And I have a couple longer floats in there, but this yarn is so super grabby that, I mean, it's already felted and no one's even worn it yet. So yeah, it's this is the Alpha Slopey, which I really have enjoyed working with. It is a singles yarn and it's Icelandic, so it has a pretty good staple length. I did the I-cord for this leash harness hole at I think I did a 2 or 3 stitch I-cord for that. So it's nice and thick, and if it wears out, I can just replace that. So I took a couple precautions since I was using that kind of singles Icelandic yarn, but for the most part, I think it's just gonna work out really well for both her and Tink. Yeah, and it was really fun to kind of play with design and play with this is kind of a nice palette or a nice canvas for whatever pattern you want to add to it. And I also had a certain amount of yarn left over from Tink, so I wanted to kind of use that up and it was perfect. So Millie has a sweater and she loves it. My dad's sweater is going to go in the mail, and it's been fun to yet again knit the same thing again. So let's do a quick update segment on test knitting and tech editing for the new design that I hope will be coming out in the new year. I finally have a name for it. And this is really thanks to you guys, because so many of you reminded me that this pattern was reminiscent for you of those baseball raglans. You know, the ones where like it's one color for the front and then the sleeves are these beautiful raglan that are in a different color, kind of like a baseball raglan. And that was my initial inspiration for this design, and I decided to go with these faux set-in sleeves instead, because it'll be a little bit, I don't know, raglans don't work for everybody, but these kind of sleeves generally do. So anyway, it's going to be called the Parks and Rec pullover, and it is being tech edited right now. I've just finished the second round with my wonderful tech editor, and so it will be going out to the test knitters early next week. So a tiny bit about the test knit. I have all the sizes filled except for 2. I think I need someone to do the 56-inch bust if you're interested, and someone to do the, I want to say 34 or 36-inch bust. I think it was the 34-inch bust. So just a couple of spots left open. If you'd like to test knit and you're thinking of a different size, just send me an email, because I do have a couple of other slots open. And I'd be happy to have you in the test knit round for this sweater. It is a fingering weight yarn. You can either hold a light lacy kind of fingering weight yarn with mohair double like I did for the body of this one, or you could use a variegated fingering weight yarn for the body. And like I said, I'll be sending out the pattern this week, I believe, and I can send you an info sheet that gives you info about the yarn and the gauge and all that kind of other good stuff if you're interested. So email me at knittingthestash@gmail.com and I will get all that info to you, and I would love to have you on board for the test knit. As far as tech editing goes, I have to tell you guys, I found the most marvelous tech editor. I'm so happy with her and so thankful for her labor. Her name is Jekaterina Dimitrijeva. Did I say that right? Probably not. She goes by Kate. She is from Riga, Latvia, and she is incredible. I got in touch with her through the Uncomfortable Creative. Remember a while ago I told you guys I was taking a class on grading, and that class turned into like a whole Facebook group, and then the Facebook group kind of grew into this other website, and we're all kind of on there in this cool community. And I was looking through the tech editors, people who listed themselves as tech editors, and Kate came up. So I will put her info here. I will put it over in the show notes. But she is a designer, so she has her own designs. She's worked in IT for many years. Amazing eye for detail. Like, I thought I had a good eye for detail. Kate is amazing. Like, she caught all the tiniest little things in the pattern. She was very kind, very constructive in her criticism. She was able to identify a couple of kind of issues with my upper sizes that needed to be completely reworked, and she let me have the space to do that, and then she helped me with it once, you know, I had put the numbers together. She's just incredible. I'm really enjoying working with her. So I would highly recommend her to anyone else who is looking for a tech editor. She tech edited a whole sweater. I think she did this in maybe, I want to say, a total of maybe 4 to 6 hours, something like that, of her time. But she also does accessories and smaller projects. She offers a 20% discount for anyone who's new to using her services. Basically, she's just incredible. So I can't sing her praises enough. I would be happy to talk to anyone about her and her work. If you're looking for a tech editor, I'd be more than happy to talk to you in more detail about my experience, but I'd highly recommend her. So this is Jekaterina Dimitrijeva, and she goes by Kate, and yeah, great tech editors. I can't wait for this pattern to come out because I feel so much more sure about it, having had it go by her really good eye for detail. So yeah, it's been a good experience. And like I said, I'm looking for a couple of other test knitters. So if you want to get involved in this project, just let me know and send me an email at knittingthestash@gmail.com. So the last segment today is a giveaway for a pattern, and this pattern is by Ravid Ekshtain, and she is a new designer. This is her first sweater pattern, and she got in touch with me via Ravelry. We've been in touch in communication for quite some time now. She is Super Green Witch on Instagram and on Ravelry, and she's done some really great community knit projects with miniature knits and with sock knitting. So she's really fun. She's fun, and people seem to gravitate toward her for these community knits. So she got in touch with me to ask if I wanted to give away her new pattern, which is Lupine Blossom. And I said, of course, this sounds wonderful. Happy to support other fledgling designers. And her sweater is a beautiful seamless sweater. She's interested in these short row sleeves that look like they're set in, but they're short rows, so it's like a nice trick. I appreciate that. So the other thing we happen to have in common is that she is a fellow professor, and she happens to be an archaeologist out of Hebrew University in Israel. She's worked in Israel and parts of Africa, and her research is on Neanderthals. So I was really excited to hear a little bit more about that and to learn about her beautiful pattern, which I will put an image up in here so that you can see it. So she wants to give away one copy of the pattern. So if you'd like to get on this giveaway, please leave a comment here on the YouTube thread or over on the Ravelry thread or over on the blog answering the question, what do you want to know from designers who are just starting to work on their first sweater patterns? Like, what are some of the questions that you might have as a fledgling designer or someone who's interested in how people become designers or any of that kind of stuff? Just leave us a good comment here, and Ravid and I will be happy to get back to you if we have answers to your questions, hopefully, but also to give away a copy of the pattern in the next episode of the cast. So thank you so much, Ravid, for donating your pattern and for our fun conversations on Ravelry. I hope we can keep them going. And for everyone else, I guess I will say that is it for this episode. It was lovely to see you guys, and I hope to see you again in a couple of weeks. Take good care. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. I think I'll see you before New Year, but you never know. And I will see you on the flip side. Bye-bye.